Welcome to The Right Question. I'm Daphne Gray Grant. Today we're talking about traditional versus self-publishing. I'm answering a question from Lisa Rumpel from Vancouver, British Columbia. Here's what she asked.
Hi, Daphne. This is Lisa Rumpel calling from Vancouver, BC. Calling about a question I have. I'm wondering whether it's a better option to self-publish or if it's better to have go to a publishing company and have them, critique your work and look at your work and really be more recognized, possibly. So that is my question to you. I would love to hear your advice or your opinion about self-publishing or going to a publishing company.
Thanks, Lisa. I've answered similar questions here before, but you've asked it in a slightly different way, so I'm going to take another stab at it. Be sure to look at my earlier videos as well. I've included links below. Let me start with an important proviso. You ask the question as though every author had the luxury of choosing between traditional and self-publishing. I had the visual image of a shopper browsing through a grocery store looking at laundry detergents. Unfortunately, that's not how book publishing works. It's extremely difficult to get a contract with a traditional publisher these days, and many authors just don't have that option. So be aware you may not have a choice. But let's assume you're lucky and you receive an offer from a traditional publisher. Here's a look at the pros and cons. The pros of traditional publishing. If you do get a book deal, the publisher will offer you what's called an advance. This means they'll pay you a portion of the royalties you'll receive once the book starts selling. Imagine your royalty is $1 per book. That means if your advance is $5,000, you'll have to sell 5,000 books before you're able to make any more money. Another advantage is that you don't have to put as much money up front. This doesn't mean, however, that it will be free. You will still have to pay for any photos or illustrations in the book. If your book needs an index, you'll either need to create it yourself or pay someone else to do it. And in order to get your publishing deal in the first place, you may have to hire an editor to help whip your manuscript into shape. The single biggest benefit of having a publisher is that they can get your book into bookstores. This is because bookstores don't have the time to deal with individual authors, and they would far rather deal with a smaller number of salespeople. Now let's look at the cons. You may think that traditional book publishing will give you lots of prestige and publicity, but the economics of book publishing have changed dramatically over the last 20 years. Most authors get very little publicity, and many new authors end up feeling unhappy and ignored. The vast majority of authors do not even earn back their advances, and publishing houses give the majority of their time and attention to the Stephen Kings and Margaret Atwoods of the world. Also be aware that the book publishers will get to make certain decisions themselves. Your opinion won't matter, and the whole process can take a long time, a year or more. Now let's consider the pros of self-publishing. The biggest pro is that you have more control. You can publish the book according to your own timeline, and you'll make every single important decision yourself. The next biggest pro is that you can make more money per book. Instead of being limited to a royalty, which is usually rather small, you get to keep all the profits yourself. You do need a way to be able to sell these books, however, and this is where many self-published authors fail. The cons of self-publishing. The biggest con is that you'll have to take some risk. You'll need to put your own money up front for editing, cover design, layout, proofreading and indexing, and printing. This can easily add up to $8,000 or more depending on how many copies you have printed at once. The next biggest con is that you need to figure out a way to stay in front of your readers. I managed to continue to sell my self-published book because I make the time to write a newsletter every week. If you don't have that kind of platform, you're going to find the work of selling a whole lot harder. I know it's daunting to think about the concept of self-publishing, and I know it must feel like a life or death decision. The best thing you can do is learn as much as you can about the industry and then figure out what your budget is for self-publishing. If you don't have the money, well, the decision may make itself for you. Finally, let me wrap up with a knowing comment from novelist Nicholas Sparks. Writing may be an art, but publishing, when all is said and done, comes down to dollars. Thanks for your question, Lisa. Some writers can also be business people. If you have the ability to do both of these very different jobs, you're a good candidate for self-publishing.